Stardate 02022023.
Oh, that's the start date.
It's definitely the star date. Welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a kind of smart, kind of funny podcast covering new and classic Trek. I'm your tennis elbow suffering captain for the night, Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes.
Oh, damn.
Hey, crush her. Just saying, you got to crush.
Oh, man. Like, I can never get it right, guys. I don't know what's wrong with me. Can never get it right.
One day, Paul. One day.
Not that day is not today.
Not today. Anyway,
hi, I'm Paul.
Who are
I'm
y'all?
Here. Clyde, Paul, Myrriah. We're here. I apologize.
Good job. Yes, tonight we are reviewing and chatting about the latest trailer for Star Trek Picard because they gave us yet another one like DJ Khaled. And we are also going to be talking about Doctor Beverly Crusher as we prepare for season 3. But first, a few reminders. Paul, where can people find this podcast?
Well, if you like to see our podcast, our podcast. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. All the links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love our content, which I know you do, consider joining Patreon. And for just $2 per episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod. And we will keep on churning these amazing episodes out. Like, these most amazing episodes. And if they're dumb people, they'll just get rid of me.
Clyde, what can people do if they want to interact with us live on YouTube this evening?
If you're watching us live on YouTube and you say, hey, I want to be part of the show, then you can. If you want us to read your comment, your question, your funny thought, your pun, correcting us, we just type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in chat, and we'll take a look at your comment. And when that special time comes and you want to share your thoughts about the show, just type capital H, capital F, capital HF, and we'll take a look at your general comments and thoughts.
Yes, indeed. Okay, y'all, I think it's time we fire up some metaphysic shields and get into some hot breaks. It's some hot breaks time. What did y'all think of this latest trailer drop? We'll start with the trailer.
Thoughts. Paul, what did you think?
Like, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm like a broken record. I go, it's hot. I feel like I'm that guy who like, oh, there used to be a commercial for Life cereal. There was a thing called Life cereal, which is basically
Mikey likes it.
Yeah, like give it to Paul. He likes everything, and I'm like going, I don't know, like I'm like historically with Picard, I've been like it's really exciting in the beginning, and then I'm like, oh, is that where we landed? But like each new season, I'm like, oh, they're going to get it right this time. It's going to be so perfect. It's going to be everything I want. It's going to be both new and nostalgia bait. It's going to be like nostalgia bait.
We're going to copyright that term, Paul.
Yeah, and like I'm on board. I'm like, I love, I'm a big Seven fan. I think like where they've taken her character is pretty awesome. From like, if you were watching her from your Voyager days, like she has like this immense like arc like over the decades. The ships look great. I thought like, man, Clyde, choo 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 choo. He should be happy about that. Like and I feel like they're hitting a tone that I like. Like Strange New Worlds hit a tone that was like both new and nostalgic. And I feel like maybe this season is taking a little hint from that and able to capture that a bit. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just, like in an infinite time loop.
You're stuck in the time loop. Clyde, did you have a hot freak?
Yeah, I mean, Paul mentioned a little bit of it, but I mean, if I had to put it in a word, shiny. The set design, like it's interesting to think about this preview, right? And then we're gonna talk about suspicion later. And so going back and watching even the later episodes of Star Trek, I feel like a lot of times we,
Next gen.
Yeah, next gen, right? We'll go back and watch, some of the other episodes. But I was glad that we chose a later episode to kind of see, okay, here's where they were in the last couple seasons. And so watching that and then and thinking about the set design, and there's a moment, we'll talk about it later, where the Ferengi doctor grabs like a case, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, that looks so plasticky, so much like a Lego case one of my kids have, right? And even when Beverly's scanning, a patient, I'm looking at these tools and I'm like, oh man, and 30 years ago, it was like, this is so amazing. When I see this preview, everything is shiny, everything is metallic, everything is like uber cool. You've got the pew pew pew, so there's fighting. You've got characters, you've got the ships, and the ships look amazing. Like, I mean, as marketing goes, this is pretty good stuff. Like, I'm interested to see as we get into the episodes and we talk about the episodes and we think about like the story and stuff like that. But first glance, it's hitting some of the right notes, and I and I'm also, we've heard a lot, and I'm trying to look through these previews and weave some of these things together. Like we've talked about, like you've got this new villain, you've got
lore,
we've talked about lore, like there's so much. I'm trying to figure out how it's all going to come together.
Yeah, I'm feeling like a really long movie. And the other reason that it feels that way to me is Terry Matalas, is that how you pronounce it? Matalas? Terry Matalas, maybe? I'll figure it out before the show starts. He did an interview with Trek movie and talked a lot about comparing it to some of the original Trek series movies. And there's a lot of inspiration drawn there. It's more naval. There's a little bit more military-esque things going on, which I think is why we're feeling that in the trailer. It's like all of the pew pew pews. It's the space battles. And it's like a seriousness to it, which I think will be interesting, but they threw a lot of humor into that trailer. I also found it very interesting that they premiered that trailer during that big football game at one of the championships. I don't know which one, West, East. I don't remember how football is divided. I haven't watched it in a very long time. So I thought that was an interesting marketing ploy, was to like put that out there for football fans. I'm like, I wonder what the overlap is of football to Star Trek.
Lots of action, but probably not a lot of.
But I do wonder from like specifically people who grew up watching Captain Picard, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder what that demographic breakdown is. Anyway, I found it interesting to think about. But the other thing, specifically in this interview that I kind of grabbed a few pieces of that Anthony Pascal did at Trek Movie, is a few character pieces, which is always where I get the most joy out of seeing in these shows. So 7 of 9, he said, it is very much a conflict for her about how fast she was inducted into Starfleet and whether or not she truly belongs. So we're going to get more belonging storylines from 7 of 9, which doesn't feel surprising, but it does feel, I think, worthy when it comes to her being inducted into Starfleet after so long. Worf is apparently dealing with the fallout of the Dominion War. And Ed Spieler's character, he has revealed, is a member of Beverly's he calls it the Doctors Without Borders group, who's helping people on worlds that Starfleet has forgotten, which I found interesting as well. And then he said the reason that Beverly will only reach out to Picard is that there's a reason she can only trust him. Something is going on that is dire enough to reach out to Picard in this way. The stakes are very high. So setting up some big cliffs to fall off of.
I mean, I think this does feel like it's the final season. This does feel like it's setting up a bit, because I mean, you're throwing everybody at it, right? It's like even in that clip, we talked about it before, but Moriarty's in that clip, and I'm I was thinking about it before the clip came out, and we were talking about this last week. I was kind of like, or 2 weeks ago, I was like, how are you gonna like? How do you weave him into the? Why would you weave him into this? Like I'm half expecting to see Wesley Crusher and Tasha Yar in here, the Romulan Tasha Yar. Like
You never know.
it's I mean, so
Commander
far,
Sela?
I mean, pretty much, we're throwing everybody into this, so it's almost like this farewell tour.
Mhm.
Like we get to say goodbye to all of these characters, though they'll probably show up in a movie later or do some weird time traveling cameo on Discovery or.
I feel like everyone's just going to pop in and do voices in Lower Decks. Like if I was a legacy character of Star Trek, I would be like, I am down for all the Lower Deck stuff because voiceover work, you don't have to get into all the makeup or the costumes. Like a lot of times they send you a kit, you do it at home. Like,
I mean, if you're Michael Dorn, you got to be like, sign me up,
right?
Like you mean I can just be in my pajamas and and you're gonna pay my day rate? Yes, sign me up.
I don't know, like I have a different take on it. Like, if you're like living on like Star Trek money, which I assume everyone there is, like because the residual still must be so much. Do you go like, oh, I only do the stuff that I want to do, like because I would be in Malta with a pina colada.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'll be on Risa, like literally make my own Risa.
Well, I think so. It's interesting that you say that because at one, I feel like I wonder if the residuals, like they were kind of light, and then recently they just like exploded.
I bet there was like
sure.
like there was this, and then like a dip, and then like boom, Netflix and everything. Like,
you don't get residuals from streamers.
Ooh.
But like you get residuals from the cell, right? Or like every time
I don't know. I've heard it's not so great. So
but they would have gotten their contracts in the golden time before streamers.
Right,
so,
but who knows what those look like now that they're just on streamers.
Right. But the thought is I think it's hard, right? It's hard to not be typecast. Like, here's the thing: someone like Myrriah Sirtis, if she did a movie tomorrow, it's gonna be a struggle to not see her as Troy, right? Jonathan Frakes too. Like, if he wanted to be in front of the camera again, how do you look at him and not see Riker? So I think it's tough. Like, I mean, Picard had a whole show that I struggled with for a bunch of reasons, but I think that the opportunity for them to say, hey, I want to practice this craft, Lower Decks is a fantastic opportunity to do that if they want.
I concede your point, Clyde. So you have
I mean, that being said, Myrriah Sirtis, if you're listening or watching, I'm going to see whatever movie you're in. Period. Point blank.
Like you've convinced me, Clyde. Like all the cast of Next Generation, they're poor. They need the work. You've convinced me. You've done it. Clyde.
I do not think they're poor, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I just watched a really bad like holiday. Like it wasn't even a Lifetime original holiday movie. It was a Tubi. I think it's a Tubi holiday movie.
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
And the Doctor was in it playing like a random character. He popped up and I was like, "What are you doing here?
Well,
what is happening?"
I
Robert Picardo.
Yeah.
I've like directed a movie that I wrote, and he was in my movie.
Robert Picardo?
Yes, and he is amazing. I love Robert Picardo. Or I see on occasion, like when he's like, "Call me Bob." Bob.
No, I refuse. I would not do that. No,
but
not calling him Bob.
But
will not.
Bob really enjoys working.
I'm not calling him Bob. I'm not calling him Rob. I'm not calling him Robert. In fact, I'm calling him Robert Picardo. That is the name. So like, hey, what's up, Bob? No, it's hey, what's up, Robert Picardo? That is how I'm doing it.
Coach from the Wonder Years. That's where I knew him from.
That's true.
Man, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I knew him from. So I was going like,
I think he shows up
everywhere
more than anybody else.
He does.
Yes.
He gets great work. Like,
Yes.
and he is amazing to work with. But like, he's anyway. I didn't mean to name drop. It just came up organically.
It's fine. We all get we all get our moments. Like when I got to meet Jerry Ryan and Michelle Hurd at Star Trek Day. We'll just
wait. Like, were there anyone else at Star Trek Day?
Nope.
Because like I feel like
Nope.
like you'd be crazy to miss that. I wasn't on the podcast yet, but it would be like if someone were to.
Clyde's never gonna live it down.
Nope.
Oh my god.
Never gonna live it down. I've been a little sad. I've been looking at our inboxes to see if we got invited to the Picard premiere, because I will be in Los Angeles when the Picard premiere is happening in Los Angeles on February 9th. And I was just like,
Okay.
Nice.
So that wasn't just me who was,
a little sad we didn't. Yeah.
Someone asked me, they were like, "Oh, are you going to the premiere?" And I was like, no, I don't think so. I was like, "Are you?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, okay. Okay, guess so. Did I make a joke? Did I fall out of favor? I guess I'm not. Paramount's not my friend anymore, I guess. So.
Okay. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm excited either way. So let's discuss Beverly Crusher. Are you guys ready to jump in?
Well, before we do that, there's someone in the chat who has sent a lot of chats, so we should just say hi to Mike Garcia. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. And Mike, you can correct in the chat if this isn't true, but Mike will be joining us for the premiere of Picard, coming to review the pod, staying up late with the central timers while we hang out.
He's coming back
with the West Coasties. So, hi, Mike. We're excited to have you back. I think it's time for some hot frakes about Suspicion. All right, y'all. What did you think about Suspicions?
I love a good Star Trek, like murder mystery, courtroom drama. The only thing that was missing is like the Tribunal Council, but yeah.
It did feel like a Law and Order episode.
It did. I mean, which, I feel like you got to get one or two of these in every episode. I feel like Voyager had these like every 3 weeks. I mean, that Tom Paris and Tom and Harry Kim. Tom and Kim were always getting in trouble and needing a lawyer. Like, I was thinking, man, you really need to have an official like Star Trek legal team on your ship. It would be helpful. Like you need counselor. No, I thought this was a pretty good episode. I love the fact that it was a Beverly Crusher focused and centered episode, like truly from beginning to end. And I thought she did a bang up job. Shout out to Gates McFadden. And just because I think for so long we saw her getting little bits and pieces and being a part of the ensemble, but not really having a whole lot of meat. And she's a fantastic actress. I also remember being really upset when she wasn't there for that. Was it a whole season? Like a half a season?
Season 2.
Oh my goodness. I was like, I was almost ready to stop. And so to fast forward to season 6 and to see that she's got an episode that wasn't even so much about her being a doctor, right? I thought was fascinating and an interesting way to go. And again, you have the ability to do that when you've got like 24, 25 episodes in a season. So you can take that type of chance and spend that time. And so I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy this episode.
Yeah, I had never watched this one before that I could remember. So that was a fun watch to see Beverly kind of in her like prime, really going through it and getting a whole episode on her own, like you were saying, Clyde. And I always love any episodes that have Guinan in it. It's just like I love Whoopi Goldberg, so I was just like, oh, and it's I don't know. There's like an air of mischievousness at like all times when Guinan is involved, and
All
so
times.
I'm always like, what's the angle here? This can't just be like I'm here to be the character you're going to tell this story to, you know? Like where's the
Right.
little twisty? So I liked the little twist at the end, and I was like, aha, there it is. I knew it was coming. But I will say, and we'll get into it. I thought it was interesting because of other, even the episode we watched with Worf, it felt like Picard usually is willing to just like go to bat and go above and beyond for members of his crew to prove their innocence or their mission, you know, like, but I understand that they have a complicated relationship, Picard and Crusher, but I don't know. I was just like, I feel like if this was Riker, he would be like, whatever you need, what resources do you want? We'll take the Enterprise into the star for you to prove this theory. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is one of those episodes where if Grant was with us, again, keep in mind for anyone who's new, Grant was as a Star Trek newbie who never watched TNG, and so was really learning about Picard through the episodes we were watching and recommending.
Mm-hmm.
If this was an episode that Grant had watched, he would have again concluded
Picard's a jerk.
Prick. Like he
Oh,
yeah,
you
like
capture
over and over and
Picard?
over again. You there are these moments.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Myrriah, and I'm
Clyde,
like,
we're losing
this
you.
is, you know, we're not quite
time loop.
sure where your relation. Oh,
you're back now.
Okay, how about now? Better? Yeah, I was just
good.
saying, like we understand that their relationship's a little bit weird, but I would expect this woman that we all think that you will someday get with, and you know, or at least try, you'd be a little bit supportive, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you've had this relationship with her former husband, you know, support her a little bit more, man. That's all I'm saying.
Let me play devil. So like, this has always been one of my favorite episodes with Beverly, partly because like in general, I sort of feel like Beverly is her standalone episodes tend to be very reactive. I'm in a warp bubble or whatever. Like
something happens. She's not the instigator of the thing happening.
And this is where she goes, I want something. I want to promote this Ferengi scientist. You know,
I want a ghost lover.
The ghost lover.
We're not talking about Sub Rosa tonight, Clyde. We're not talking Sub Rosa.
Hate that episode. Sorry,
but even then, like, you know, she went to her grandmother's, you know, thing, and then this thing afflicted her. Like, you know, came on. Whereas she starts off the episode like, "Hey, everyone, I went to a conference and I thought that, like, you know, this was really promising." And boom. But we even start off with her, "Man, I just got fired."
Yeah.
So I mean, like she's real. It's starting hot. She's starting.
I also thought it was like a weird transition to see. So, in like a weird continuity era thing. So the episode opens up with like Guinan coming in, being like, "Oh, I have tennis elbow, Jake. Yay! I'm like really just here to get you to talk about what's going on." And like Beverly's like changing, getting ready to go on a shuttle, but then she like immediately like. We go back in time, but by the time we get back to where the timeline is the same, you know, from the beginning of the episode, she's then back in her regular uniform going to try to do and like get in the shuttle and do this experiment after going through the autopsy reports.
Well, and Riker tells her the shuttle's not coming to the next morning.
Yeah. So why did she change outfits?
Well, the other not only that, but I may have.
I'm dying, civies.
Here's the deal. I'm sure I saw this when it originally came out. I have not watched it since.
Really?
And because I've seen the rest of the season, I kind of know. But nothing about that opening scene made me even question for a moment that she was fired. Like, and I'm sure when I saw it the first time, I didn't go, Beverly's fired. I'm like, all right, what's going? Like, what's really happening? It just I didn't respond to.
Well, I mean, like, But like it's a trope in the Star Trek. What you call it? Like when you get into the later seasons, you play around a little bit. Like in Voyager, it started off with like with that. Remember that water planet episode where like it starts off, "Hey, Dad, I'm in jail for 30 days because of what I did." I'm like, I don't care. Like it's just a framework. But yeah, but as far as my thoughts of this episode, like I've like watching it this time, and I've never noticed this before. Like I go like everyone does things that is not normally within their character. Like people are doing like there's this one part where like Beverly's walking down the corridor, and then Riker kind of like sidles up to Beverly and goes, "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine, but don't do anything like I wouldn't do." I go like, when has Beverly ever done anything that you would have done?
Also, like, what is the use of that information? Because, like, what wouldn't Riker do?
I know. I mean, so it's just, it's just really like everyone's doing, except for Guinan. Guinan is the only person who's doing what Guinan normally does. Like she's a little nosy.
Well,
and like
the only thing that was out of character was her saying that she played tennis, which I was just like, I do not believe, but that's how I know something is up. Like,
not buying this for 1 minute.
Yeah. As far as Picard, like I would push back on like Captain Picard, because what else could he do? Like literally,
I think I feel like after watching like even that Worf episode most recently, where he was literally willing to like die, he broke the rules, like all this stuff, he would be like, you know what, you do the autopsy and we'll find a way to like deal with it.
Like it's like if someone dies on your watch, and then the family goes like, "Please don't cut into my kid," and then Picard goes like, "Dude, I know they asked not to cut into the kid, but like Beverly, I believe in you. Cut into their kid."
But it's like, do they even have to do that now? And like, I saw like I was like, how do you know? They're in these weird tubes. You're scanning them with stuff. Do you have to cut them open?
That's actually the thing, right? That's where it's funny, because I go like, why do you need to cut them open? Like, that's where the weird thing is. It isn't the fact that Picard said like, don't do it because like there's something invasive about like, the autopsy, but like the fact that they just can't go like, oh, well, there you go. There's nothing off with him.
Well, I mean, okay. Here's the thought though. Okay. Yeah. We're dissecting this too much, but they're not really cutting in, because if they cut into, what was it, Jabril? Like that dude was alive, so
yeah, right. Yeah.
So they didn't cut into him.
But you saw a big old hole that and he's still walking. So like he's like
true.
He's like a biological Borg. That's what he is. He's so decentralized.
Oh no, they said that his physiology is such that like it's all this redundancy.
Exactly.
But still, like she couldn't have cut into him too much, because at some point, like unless he could deal with all the pain. He's gonna say "ow" a little, something, right? Something like a flinch.
Well, like he was aware enough to be able to hear everything.
That's what I'm saying.
Even if he like put himself into like sleep mode or whatever for the Jabril. And then my other question was, how did he get from the morgue drawer to the ship with no one noticing?
Right?
Decentralized.
Like, just particles.
It's like the what you call it, the crypto. He's decentralized.
like he's in the morgue drawer, right? Yeah. So Alyssa didn't like see this naked alien get up, rummaging around trying to find some clothes, and then walk down the hall and get into the shuttle. How did he like? And she didn't exactly say. She didn't say, "I'm going to the shuttle." Like she just said, "I know what I got to do." How did he know she was in the shuttle? Like, there are some questions there. I was kind of like,
okay, so here's my hot take, and then I'll like, you guys ever watched the movie Pitch Perfect?
I have seen Pitch Perfect.
Okay, so I like, as you may suspect, I love Pitch Perfect because I love everything apparently. But that said, like I recognize
I'm gonna bring you cups the next time I see you, Paul.
That's right. Okay. Like Pitch Perfect is held together with bubble gum. It doesn't, like it's like like a lot of movies that they like dovetails come together. Oh my god, so amazing! Like Memento or something like that. But Pitch Perfect is like, oh, we need this person to say this. Let's just edit. Is it going to work? Close enough. And then they make story points out of that. And I feel like this episode is either written this way, directed this way, or something this way, where I feel like it's connected. It's held together with bubblegum. And if you just watch it on the surface part, like you're like, oh, what a great example of Beverly Crusher. Just look at her moxie. But if you really cut it apart, like this is really.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I enjoyed, like Gates McFadden's performance the whole episode. I thought she was great. I thought the little fight sequence was like, I got to see her do a bunch of stuff, which I found refreshing. Right. And I was like, this is great. I'm really down for this. I like when we get to watch like a singular character go through something, especially this far into this many seasons and episodes, where we're like, we know what everyone's kind of main drivers are, right? But like Crusher, I feel like and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, we probably haven't gotten as many episodes focusing on her as everyone else.
This is true. Like they're like in the end of season 6 this season, like she commands the Enterprise.
It's a pretty big arc, yeah.
No, like here's the Doctor, and what's really interesting is like because of this episode, she's able to survive a Borg encounter. She destroys a Borg ship.
I mean, why didn't we watch that episode?
We should have watched that one.
It's a two-parter, right? It's the one with Lore, my favorite, and you guys think I'm a monster for liking Lore. But
again,
anyway,
why didn't we watch these episodes?
Why didn't we watch? Yeah, that would have been a perfect episode to watch.
Because we were discussing Beverly Crusher, and this is a Crusher specific story.
Yeah,
I just didn't want to watch Sub Rosa, so
I know.
I was gonna say yes to pretty much.
We
anything.
know every morning you wake up, you get your coffee, you watch Sub Rosa, you go to work.
Listen,
you get it.
I love to hang out with the Patreon, like watch the watch alongs.
Yeah,
but that was one that I was like, what are we watching? Like this seems so sketchy.
Like there are like 300 some episodes. There's 300 some episodes, right? Like of
there's a lot.
so like if you lose like 1%, that's 3 really, really, really bad episodes.
I'm just saying, it's just at the end of the day, I feel like I'm scarred. My son's birthday passed recently. We had a candle on his cake, and even then, I was like, we blowing this thing out and getting rid of this now. Like, I'm not. I'm now scared of candles permanently. I'm like, no candles.
Is Sub Rosa your least favorite episode of TNG? Because mine, I know what mine is. Mine is season 1 when they need to go to that vaccine, and Tasha Yar needs to fight for for what you call it, because someone decides that I'm going to marry you, or like I choose you, and then the wife.
Oh man.
Go back to that.
So what the oh man, we've talked about that one in the watch along, and I think we skipped it on purpose.
Yeah, no, that's a bad episode.
That's up there with one of the worst episodes.
And it started season 1. Season 1, it started off there. And TNG survived.
Yes.
There it is. Code of Honor.
Yeah. King says,
right.
We don't talk about Code of Honor here. We don't watch it. We don't discuss it. Like, that is a horrible episode. That is the worst one. I would, and given the opportunity, if I had to choose, I'm taking the candle over the cringy, terrible episode of Code of Honor.
Well, just to bring it back over here to Beverly Crusherville, in the episode that we did watch, one of the things I did like about this episode was seeing a Klingon, a Vulcan, and Takar.
Walking to a bar.
That sounds like, I was thinking it sounds like a joke.
I did enjoy that we got to see what like scientists from these different cultures all interacting together and kind of their scientific approaches, which I thought was interesting. I also thought it was wild that Klingon scientist Karak just fully tossed Beverly across the room.
Yeah,
That was wild.
Yeah, I mean, it's been mentioned before, but like, like I said, I love the fact that this was a Beverly Crusher episode, but like, where was the security team this entire episode? Like,
right, like a murder happened on your ship.
Right.
Did it? Because it looked like a suicide. It looked like a suicide.
Still, by the second time, right? So maybe the first time was an accident. The second time was a suicide. Like, this is suspicious. See how I worked that in there? Mm-hmm. This is suspicious. Security should be all over this thing.
Worf was there at the suicide. He's the chief inspector.
I'm just saying.
Like, like what you're saying is Worf is not enough.
Okay, so maybe
I am not saying that. I am not saying that.
Maybe this wasn't so much a Law and Order like episode as much as like a CSI like original series. You know what I mean? Because there's always like the one who's like, "This is the straightforward answer. Why are you still digging?" Yeah. And then there's the other officer who's just like, "We have to dig. This doesn't match up because of their personality."
100%. Like
that lines up, Myrriah, because the thing that drives me a little bit nuts about CSI is that someone's looking for something and it's never ready until someone else walks into the room and all of a sudden it's ready. So Data was examining the shuttle and Beverly walks in. It was like, aha. It's like, oh, okay. Timing's just perfect.
Well,
that's how TV works, Clyde.
I know. That's how TV works.
But like one of the things I really liked about this episode, like I've always liked about this, I think this is why this episode is a soft spot for me, is because I suppose like the way I would describe it is like it was like 90s allyship, like Star Trek allyship. Like here is this Ferengi who goes in and goes like, "Hey, I know you're not taking me seriously, and here is this person who has such privilege." He goes like, "I will set this up for you." Because like all the Ferengi wants is basically to be like not even a seat at the table, just be recognized that I'm not, that I have something to contribute. And like and she goes, she risks her career for that. And I think that I always really appreciate that for whatever reason. And I don't really like Ferengi. Like I'm racist. I'll admit it.
Well, I think. Well, to your point, Paul, I think what's interesting is, what we get in this episode is not all Ferengi are the same.
Sure, yeah.
Right? Which often we get this, Ferengi has a very similar note, right?
Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like, hey, you can't look at it you can't look at all of us as the same. I'm different. And so that was interesting to me. I was like, wow, okay. This is
I will say, going and not have seen this episode before, I was fully expecting part one of the twists to have been that the Ferengi was like somehow trying to sell this idea in some way.
You're racist too.
This is prior to Deep Space Nine Ferengi, okay? Yeah. They play with that trope a lot. I was just waiting for them to give me the trope that they set up.
Sure, 100%. Like it's just interesting. Anyway, you were gonna say something, Clyde? You look like you were gonna say something.
Well, I just think that that's part of what's interesting with this episode is that they did set up tropes and we kind of fell into them. Like I'll be honest, I kind of thought the Klingon did it. Like I was kind of convinced that the Klingon did it because that's what we're used to. Is that
I'm wondering
that kind of
when else have we seen Takarans? Because
we
never.
I don't. It's the first and only time.
Interesting. That's interesting to me. Okay.
Because you need them to be able to like apparently die and not die.
Die and not die. Yeah. That is that's wild. I wonder if they'll make an appearance in something in any of the new Trek shows, because that is like a really interesting idea of like essentially like a biological Borg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In some way.
Like this. I started watching this episode, then I went through a whole bunch of episodes, like because whenever I watch an episode, I can't just watch one. I watch the original Lower Decks because, like, so good.
Yeah.
But I also, I lost it.
You watched multiple episodes. We're talking about Takarans.
I know, but there was something about, I was going to connect it. It's gone. It's gone. My
Okay.
my positronic net is collapsing.
It's failing.
Well, I think that's one thing that's really working about these Picard trailers is they do have me wanting to go back and feeling like I need to watch more episodes.
Yeah, no,
Right? Like I feel like I don't like. I'm like, man, do I know everything I need to know about Worf to be able to watch this if he's going to be in this? Because he has a whole second career, whole second,
Mhm.
rebirth on DS9, and then looking at 7 of 9, I'm like, I've been rocking with 7 for a while, but like, do I know everything I need to know? Especially when I think about how it opens as her on the ship. And
Mhm.
I'm like, man, do I know? Like, so it's fascinating that it's making me want to see even more Trek as we get ready for Picard.
Yeah, no, like
Yeah.
my the biggest 7 of 9 growth moment that I remember was in Picard when she euthanizes Icheb. and because because she's crying and she's doing all that, like you see her from a 7 of 9, like in Voyager, and now you have a crying, like angry, like like 7, like the huge arc where you're like, oh man, this person has gone through a lot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I wanted to ask y'all, since you've definitely watched more TNG than I have, what is sort of some baseline things you think folks should remember as we're getting into season 3, specifically about Picard and Beverly's relationship?
You go, Clyde.
Well, if you haven't seen much TNG, the weirdness factor is he was her husband's best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And because of a decision that he made, I think her husband kind of lost his life. And
Kind of lost his life.
Well, dude is dead.
Yeah.
And so that was always this a little bit of a block for them. It's like, hey, we have these feelings for each other, but it's like we were all friends, and because of our relationship, your husband died. And now I kind of want to holler, but I can't holler because you work for me. It's like an HR nightmare. But there's this clear like chemistry. But the thing that I think is also interesting, that it's also kind of weird. Like, they've had this chemistry for the entire 7 seasons, and it's a will they, won't they, but it's not as much of a meet cute as like Sam and Diane. Sometimes it gets a little annoying, like just meet already. But also no one's ever seems jealous when the other person is kind of dating.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's because everyone that Picard and Beverly has dated has been in a hot mess and usually some type of criminal.
Well, actually, I have a counterpoint. I have a note that. So one of the episodes I watched was the one where like the astrophysicist comes on board, like, and she and Picard kind of hook up. Do you remember this? I think
Vash?
No, Vash is the
archaeologist,
treasure hunter. But
yes.
There's an episode where she's Lieutenant Commander Darren, I think her name is.
Mm-hmm.
I think the episode is called Lessons. Anyway, so she comes on board. There's a meet cute. They kind of play music together. He confides to her, about the flute that he has. That and she plays the piano.
Musical love.
And they're making out all over the ship.
Yes.
But what's really funny is that both Picard and I think it's Darren are
Darren, yeah,
are talking to Beverly, and Beverly just going like you don't know if she's okay with this happening or not.
Mm-hmm.
So she looks, you can interpret it as jealous. You can it was pretty, in retrospect I watched it and I was like, oh, this is pretty funny. But to answer your question, Myrriah, there's there are 2 episodes that I think are really important. There's one where Picard and Beverly are linked like psychically because of like an implant, and that's when Beverly discovers that Picard used to be in love with her.
It was like reading the diary.
And so that is I can't remember what that episode that was. But like anyway, and in the series finale, like, you know, you discover that like Picard and Beverly like get married and then get divorced. So like those are kind of like I would say relationship, you know, kind of episodes that are really clear.
It's a good list. Maybe we'll publish that on our Slack and on our Twitters. So if people want to catch up and get ready for the next season. And then now that we're talking about Takarans and we're trying to figure out who the big bad is that only Picard can help her with, do we think Takarans are going to make an appearance in season 3? Probably not.
No.
I mean,
it's definitely a Romulan ship. It looks so Romulan.
It looks like J.J. Abrams Romulan, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Like the Shintar or something like that was the immediate thing that came to my mind. Yeah. But
the Kelvin verse and Picard. That would make so many people so angry, and I'd be so excited about it.
Yeah, it would. No, I don't think that the Takarans will make. I mean, we've been given so much. I don't know that you can throw much more at this.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
Like we've been given.
We already have our bads. Yeah.
Do we? I feel like we got 3 bads. Like I'm not even sure who the big bad is. Like the big bad.
Yeah.
You have the captain, you have Lore, and you have Moriarty. Those
I feel like the captain is going to be the big bad to me. She's getting the big bad, swivel chair moment.
She has the big bad vibes.
Yeah. And she's got those scary looking dudes behind her with those crazy outfits.
Yeah. No. I hear you.
Do you think that Lore is actually going to be a protagonist in this?
No. I think Lore is like in a prison cell and they go to him because they need information. And it's like maybe 2 episodes.
I think, I hope that Lore saves the day. I hope Lore is the hero that he's always been, that no one's ever given credit for. He is the peanut hamper of the Star Trek universe.
The peanut hamper saves and then unsaves.
That's right. Like, he's complicated. He's complicated. He has the Mark 1 emotion chip. Come on, guys. Come on. This is and you met his dad. His dad's a jerk. Always preferred the second kid. This is like where could this guy go? Where could he go?
Wow.
I am speechless. I am literally speechless. No,
I just want to I'm going to put up a picture on my Twitter that's just peanut hamper and Lore. It'd be like, you have to listen to the podcast to find out why these things matter.
No, you're giving people ideas. The next thing we know, we're going to have a Lower Deck episode.
With Lore, oh my God, with Lore.
Peanut hamper and Lore, yeah.
That would be amazing. They're the big bad of season 5 of like Lower Decks. That would be awesome. And hilarious.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, any predictions that you want to give about Beverly and why she's calling for Picard, and Picard can be Obi-Wan Picard, you're our only hope?
Can we just keep it simple? Like she's in trouble and that's the person she trusts and she misses him. And like she's at that. I think it'll be interesting because when we left Picard, didn't he just like express his feelings for Laura?
I'm sorry, I don't know her name. I feel like I'm the Romulan.
No, it's like
Laris.
There we go.
And we got this. I think what's interesting about this is, if we go back to last season, we're all like, oh man, he just needs to tell Laris how he feels. And like, I feel bad because now that I look back, none of us were thinking about Gates McFadden at all. Like,
we didn't know she was coming on for the 3rd season.
Yes. And so now for looking at Loris, I think it could be interesting. Did they where are they when we start the episode? Where's Picard and Loris? And is this that moment where he's finally on his way to starting a relationship with Loris, and then the ex calls and is like, hey, I want you back. It's been a long time. I'm getting older. Let's do this. It's like I'm wondering if that's the storyline.
Or it could be just like the Entourage movie from the series of movie where it ends with Vince getting married, and then when they get to the movie, they go like, "Yeah, that didn't work." And so when they start off with like Picard going like, "Okay, Loris, I guess we'll see you."
Paul, I feel like I've learned a lot about you this evening. Between Pitch Perfect and Entourage, I have questions.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm crazy.
I have questions. Yeah.
No. I get it.
I mean, in fairness, I've enjoyed both of those things too, so I can't.
There are times when I describe myself as remarkably basic.
You're a perfect moviegoer, Paul.
Well, okay, so Kang says this, right? He says he doesn't want to see. He can't imagine Wesley calling Picard dad. I guess this is the thing that's been I'm thinking about. So we know Wesley's like the traveler and whatnot. Does he come back for this? Because here's the thing that we also know. We know that the actor whose name escapes me for just a moment. The actor Wesley Crusher.
Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton. We know Will Wheaton. I don't want to say available, but he's around. I mean, he's doing the ready rooms and stuff like that. So it's not like he
was in season 2.
He was in last season.
Yeah.
I mean, he showed up, but I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of talk. Everyone seems to think this Ed Spieler's character is potentially this like offspring love child of Crusher and Picard in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not sure about that. But I also think, I mean, to Cheapy's point, they don't necessarily need to be a thing. They could just be like, hey, you're my ex friends who I trust. We tried it. It didn't work. You're with Loris now. But I know that I can trust you because we worked together for that long.
And has that ever worked? Does that work for people? Like your ex calls and the new love is okay with the ex being like, "Hey, come hang out."
Every queer relationship, yes. I would say I don't know a queer woman who is not friends with an ex who probably comes over and still like fixes your fridge or whatever.
Wow.
I'm not fixing any of my ex's fridges ever. Call a handyman. I'm not that dude.
Well, yeah, that's why you're not a queer woman, Clyde.
This is true. Not sure if life would be more complicated or less complicated as a queer woman.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm fine with the big question mark. It can also just continue the will they, won't they? They did, and will they do it again? Who knows?
I know. It'll be interesting. Like, although I really like Beverly for all of it, I believe that Beverly and Troy had the hardest roles in Next Gen. Like, because and Beverly had, I think, the best like, I don't know a lot of people who hate Beverly Crusher. I know a lot of people who are like, Troy's the worst.
How could you hate Troy?
I'm not saying that you are those people, and I'm not even saying I'm those people. I just know that people are like, man, she kind of just walks around useless, repeating the things that are pretty obvious. I think he's lying, Captain. No shit, Troy.
Hey, listen, somebody who can empath, that's like gold.
I understand. That's just
like saying, having an X-Men on your crew. Like, come on.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, like, I've never heard anyone once say, like, Crusher was, she was pretty useless, wasn't she? I've never heard once.
I mean, to their points, I don't think the writers were helping those causes Do you know what I mean? I think they
sure,
were
sure.
like, here are the two women archetypes that we're going to give you on this show. You're going to have the I feel feelings, and I am into those feelings and into being perceived in a potentially sexual way. And then the I am the intellect, I am the doctor,
I'm patch you up.
I'm going to patch you up, I am mommy.
Yeah,
so you have
mommy.
So you have the vixen and you have mommy, and those were the two women that they wrote for.
So what about
and Tasha Yar,
grandma?
And then that didn't work out.
And then because it's we get a little bit farther, so we do get the spectrum of a few more characters, but it's like the two main characters we've been left with are Vixen and Mommy.
Sure. No, I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, it now that you talk about it, I think that's one of the things that I struggle with TNG is that some of the archetypes are a little bit basic, particularly as they bring on women characters. And all of the things that we've learned to hate about some of that stereotypical writing comes into place, right? Like they're so often, can they exist without being part of a love interest, which is, I think, one of the things that was really interesting about characters. Like, and first of all, if we really think about, there weren't a whole lot of female bridge characters, right? Or at least at the same time. But you think about somebody like Ensign Rolaren, right? Who is one of the few characters that I don't think there was ever a romantic storyline for.
Except when she was hooking up with Riker.
Okay, well.
Well, they were all brain wiped. Their mind wiped. So they didn't know. But yes.
But like, I mean, yeah, I think it's interesting where, I don't know.
I mean, we're looking at things that were written and created in the late 80s, early 90s from today's lenses, right? And so there's going to be things that are not up to par now, which I think is like, I don't know. It's part of the reason I get so mad when people are like, I don't like new Trek, I miss old Trek. And I'm just like, I don't understand. Like the characters are richer, the plots are richer, the special effects look better. And we get, I don't know. There's more boxes are ticked for me on this next generation of Star Trek, if you will.
No, I hear you. Like, I feel like to Clyde's point, things were a little more in boxes back then. And even Star Trek has always been pushing. Star Trek
100%,
always been pushing. And so like even though Next Gen doesn't live up to our lens now, it could not. It basically could not. Like, for its time, it was still pretty, code of honor aside, it was still pretty good.
Look, I'll sum it up and say I love O-Trek, but I'm really happy with the character development and how people are portrayed with New Trek, because part of me wants to go, let's just chalk it up to the 80s. But our people in our Slack channel know that I think that what they did to Jolene Blaylock on Enterprise, which wasn't the 80s, 90s, was criminal, and how they portrayed her character. And so I think now we're in a place where when we look at, we started off this new Trek with Michelle Yeoh being just a straight badass. And so I feel
nominated Michelle Yeoh.
You mean future Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh?
Yes. So I'm saying like I think when we think about the new Trek has been updated. Yeah, it's not so much episodic except for something like Lower Decks, but and Prodigy. But I think Trek has said, hey, we can still be all the things that are Trek, but we've grown, we've matured, we've learned. And that doesn't mean that old Trek is bad, but I think it also helps to talk about it critically and to say, hey, I don't like the way this was portrayed, but I still like the story. It was a good story. It's I still love it without endorsing everything about it.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see Beverly Crusher in this era of Trek, I think is what I was like ultimately trying to get to, is like she got put into these boxes. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens when she's able to break outside of that box.
So do you think she'll be more, whatever this new character is, Wesley's gone. She's older now. So do you think we're going to see less mommy? Beverly?
I mean, I don't think you have to separate mom from like a strongly written character, right? I think it's like just making it more dynamic. So do I think those elements will still be there? Sure, because that's like how the character was created. Like those elements are not going to go away, but I'm excited to see what happens when she's beyond that.
I think I'm really interested to see, because I don't know that we've ever seen them on screen together. I'm interested to see the Beverly Crusher and the 7 of 9 characters interact.
Yeah.
Like you've got 2 really strong female leads, the way I look at them. Like, what does that look like? Do we get to see that? That'd be I'm kind of curious. And before we go, because we're talking about it and it'll be here soon, I feel like we've spent a lot of time talking about kind of old Trek characters, and 7 and 9 is kind of both. We haven't really talked about any of the Picard regulars. Yeah.
I mean, who's left besides 7 of 9 and Raffi?
I don't know.
From the trailers, those are the only 2 that I've seen.
That's the thing. From the trailers, that's the only one we see. Do we think we'll see anybody else? Like, and I gotta be honest, I'm not a huge Raffi fan. I'm trying, but it's a struggle.
I think they're going to give her an interesting plot this season, because it looks like we're going to get some like dark, grimy underbelly stuff, which I'm here for seeing that part. The future can't all be bright and shiny. There's got to be darkness to wipe out, right?
Wow, that's both uplifting and remarkably cynical.
I am literally living in a place right now where my power goes out every other hour, so I'm living in cynicism. So.
That's right.
Well, and before we go, Chupi mentions it. Like, is it me, or does there seem not to be much Troy in the trailer?
That's true. I only saw her like twice, right? Or like.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems to be the Riker and Picard buddy up for a lot of the trailer, but it's also, I mean, I remember from Discovery trailers that almost everything in the trailer was from like the first episode. So it's possible that almost everything we're seeing in this trailer is from the first episode and a half, with maybe a couple of peppered in space battles. You know what I mean?
I'm just hoping that we get a character like Book from Discovery that is just really lovable.
I would go the other way. I would want to find a character who you like to hate.
Ooh, like Mirror Michelle, like Mirror Giorgio.
Yeah, like what you call it, the Empress. She's my favorite character. Well, not my favorite, but
she's up there.
She's up there. She's up there, especially that the time portal one, that episode. So good. Oh my god! Okay, I'm yelling again. I apologize.
Maybe I just want a character that you love to love, like Mirror Tilly, aka Captain Killy.
Captain Killy. Oh, Captain Killy. Love me some Killy.
All right, y'all. All right. Anything else before we wrap it up?
Nope. I think we gotta wind down shut down the core.
Shut down the core. Turn the switches off. I don't know what else to say. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us this week. We will be back February 16th to discuss the premiere of Picard. It is happening. It is coming. And we'll live stream and chat about the premiere. Mike will be back. I'm really excited. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple. We'd love if y'all could leave us a review over on Apple if you've been enjoying these. Visit StarTrekPod.co for links to all the places to listen and for the Patreon. Clyde, where are we on Twitter?
Check us out at Star Trek Pod on Twitter. Shout out to Karen, who runs our Twitter. Thank you, Karen. We will see y'all next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Holla.